We're going to have a tour of St. Mary Magdalene Catholic Church, and we will begin in the chapel and go throughout the whole church. That actually was dedicated in 1968. Previous to that church, there was a church that was built, an old wooden church that was built in 1917. In 1917 church, what you see here on the front of this altar is what was in the original church. Now this is the Last Supper. That is a beautiful, beautiful representation of Jesus at the Last Supper. We found this actually about 5 or 6 years ago in storage, and it was completely deteriorated. And so I knew a person who was a painter, and I asked him if he thought that he could restore it, and he did. It's a beautiful rendition. So if you're ever at time and you don't feel too embarrassed, just come here and kneel down or actually lay down in front of it and look at it. It's in very, very much detail. This altar was also in the church that was dedicated in 1968, as was the tabernacle and the stand on which it stands, and the baptismal font. So all of these items were in the church that was dedicated in 1968. Father Bill Steele was the pastor at that time in the church. We looked at several different items that we wanted to be installed in the church, and we looked at the stained glass windows. I wanted us to have a representation of Jesus ascending into heaven, and that's what you have here, is Jesus ascending into heaven. Now Jesus, at the time that he was going to ascend into heaven, was in Bethany, and he took the 11 apostles. Those 11 apostles he took to the top of the Mount of Olives, and actually from the Mount of Olives he ascended into heaven. We have 6 of the apostles in one of the stained glass windows and 5 in the other. If we remember that there was only 11 apostles at this time in church history. Judas had committed suicide after he had turned Jesus over to the Sanhedrin and the scribes and the Pharisees. And the person who was to replace Jesus was a person by the name of Matthias, but he has not yet been identified. So 11 disciples. When we first put the chapel in, we did not have the statues of the Blessed Virgin Mary or the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And so we added those about a year later, and Mark Eisterhold built the stands as you see those statues on. I asked Mark if he thought he could do that, and he did. It's a tradition in the Catholic Church for us to light candles, but in the recent years, what's happened is in many, many churches, the lighting fixtures that you see here have replaced the candles. A couple of reasons for that. One of them is insurance, and the other is the heat that's generated by the candles. Then we have the Sacred Heart of Jesus and Our Lady of Guadalupe here. When we put the 4 stained glass windows here on the walls in the chapel, we actually did a survey and asked the people in the parish to select the saints that they would like to see here in the chapel. And we had 50, 60 different saints that were actually named, but the ones who got the most named were the ones that we have here. We have the Blessed Mother, and then we have St. Jude, we have St. Francis, and St. Therese with a little flower in here. Above those, we also have little indications of various things that help identify these saints. For instance, in the Blessed Mother here, we see the sword piercing her heart up above. which is what Simeon said to her, that a sword will pierce your heart. And of course it did when her son had his heart pierced. We know that it was the same as piercing her heart. But this is our chapel. We started out with chairs in here, and a couple of years ago we actually replaced them with pews, and as a result of that we could actually seat more people, and I think it's more convenient for the people. This picture hanging on the wall is known as the Holy Face of Jesus. It was donated to the parish by the Knights of Columbus. It's the cloth in which Veronica wiped the face of Jesus during the time of the Stations of the Cross. This is the priest's sacristy. This is where the priest vests, and in doing so we have in here all of the vestments that the priests wear, the various colors. This is the Easter season that we're in at this particular time, and that is either white or gold. So you see the priests wearing either white or gold during this particular time. We also have ordinary time, which is green. We have the purple vestments, which is for Advent and for Lent. We have the red vestments that are for confirmation, for Good Friday, and the various masses that we celebrate for the martyrs of the church. Those are here, and we also have the albs for the priest. On this side, we have the albs and the vestments for the deacons, and those albs and vestments are actually match in color with what the priest wears. You have here, these are called stoles. This is what the priest wears when he's celebrating Mass, the stoles that are matching the vestments that he's wearing. For instance, he would wear a white stole if he had on white vestments and so forth. Here we have the various books that are used in the Mass. The rites books. The rites would be like the rite of the Eucharist, Holy Communion, the rite of confirmation, the rite of baptism, and so forth. And we have the books here to support that. Here we have lectionaries, and these are the lectionaries where we read at each Mass that we celebrate actually items from the Old Testament, the New Testament, or from the letters of the Acts of the Apostles. And articles that we use for celebration of the Mass. This is called a chalice, and this is holds the precious blood. And in doing so, those are used during each one of the Masses. This is a ciborium, and a ciborium is what we use in the tabernacle, where when we have the Eucharist to be reserved, it's put in the ciborium and put in the tabernacle. This is a bowl that is actually used for the distribution of Holy Communion within the Mass. These are our wafers. It's wheat bread, and this is the celebrant's host, and these are the hosts that are given to the people whenever the distribution of Holy Communion is made during the Mass. This is a processional cross, and at the beginning of each Mass, the processional cross leads the congregation into the church. The cross, the altar servers, the deacons, the celebrant of the Mass. This is a thurifer, and in the thurifer we place inside it charcoal briquettes, and those briquettes will burn, and we add incense to that, and the incense is used during the Masses, mostly in the holy seasons, and sometimes at funerals, where we will incense the body at funerals. At the most holy masses, particularly at the Easter Visual, the Easter candle is incensed as the gifts, the Word of God, and also the people. Is the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove with Alpha and Omega there. If you'll notice that also is a reflection in the windows that we have here going into the church. We know that when Jesus came out of the water after he had been baptized, that the Holy Spirit descended on him in the form of a dove. So what we have is the dove appears to be hovering over the baptismal font. Because as we go into the church, we see the baptismal font. The parish had actually designed and built the baptismal font. There was a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that were in the font, and in order to be able to see these, we have 3 steps that go into the font and 3 steps that come out. And what that represents is the 3 days in the tomb, because we know that in baptism we die and rise with Christ. So 3 steps into the baptismal water and 3 steps out, dying and rising with Christ. Also wanted the baptismal font to be such that we could have submersion in for the people. And so when you get into the baptismal font, when you kneel down, the water actually comes up to your chest, and it's very easy to submerge the people during baptism. There's pumps in both stations, and as those pumps are turned on, the water comes up through the station and overflows back into the baptismal font. One of the things that the church asks us to do is to have a place where the sacred oils that are blessed by the bishop are displayed. So that's what we have here in this case. We have the oil of the sick, the oil of the catechumen, and the chrism oil. This is the chapel of reconciliation, where the people come to before the priest for the sacrament of reconciliation for the forgiveness of sin. What we wanted to show in these stained glass windows that are here is the love that Christ has for each and every one of us. Up at the top is the Good Shepherd. It depicts to us that Jesus went out to search for the sheep that was lost, and actually he found the sheep, put it on his shoulders, and brought it back, and they had a great celebration because the sheep was lost has been found. And that's certainly what happens in the sacrament of reconciliation. The prodigal son here on the left is the young man that told his dad that he wanted to have everything that was coming to him. His dad gave him his inheritance. He left, squandered it away, lost everything, and then actually had nothing, not even food to eat. And then he thought that he would come back to his father and ask for forgiveness. His father received him and told the people who worked for him, said, put sandals on his feet and put a robe around him, for this son of mine who was lost has been found. That was dead is now alive. Here we have the woman at the well. This woman came every day to the well, and she came there to get water. And what she did is she came at noon because she was a great sinner. Most of the women came to the well when they came early in the morning before anybody was there. But she, because of her background, felt like that she could not come with the other women, and so she came later in the day. And at this particular day, Jesus was there at the well. And Jesus asked her for water. And she said to him, "How can you, a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan woman, for water?" Because Jews do not talk to Samaritans, nor do they talk to women in public. And then Jesus tells her, "If you knew who was asking you for a drink of water, you would ask me for a drink of water, and I would give you a water that you would never be thirsty again." And then Jesus begins to tell her all about herself. And then she goes off and tells others in the city, "Come and see who I have found. That this person now has told me everything about myself. He must be the Messiah." So actually this woman was the first disciple of Christ. A disciple of Christ is a person who goes out and brings others to Christ. And that's exactly what she did. Here we have on the door, Jesus and the children. And what we did with the children is we wanted to have the different ethnic groups that we have in the parish. And so we had Anglo, Asian, Hispanic, and Afro-American. And they're all gathered around Jesus. And Jesus is certainly teaching them. That's one of my favorite stained glass windows. I think it's the people who put these stained glass windows together is out of College Station. As we enter into the confessional, what you see first as you walk in is a place for the person that's going to be going to confession will kneel, and there is a screen here, and on the other side of the screen is the priest. You have the option of either sitting in the chair over here, and this chair allows you to be able to go and face the priest face to face. So you can remain anonymous by kneeling here on the kneeler, or if you want to go face to face and more or less talk to the priest, then you can go to the chair. Also in these gifts that we see in the confessional, what you see here is Jesus actually kneeling at the rock. This took place in the Garden of Gethsemane on the night before he died, as he cried tears of blood, as he said to the Father, "Why have you forsaken me? My God, why have you forsaken me?" Here we have Jesus, "I love you." Divine mercy is also a gift to the parish. And the Lady of Guadalupe statue is a gift to the parish from the Hispanic community. This church seats 1,200, so it's actually 3 times the size of the church that we had, which is now the Family Life Center. And in doing so, this church actually, even though we have 7 masses on the weekends now, at least 3 or 4 of them are completely filled. When we built the church, we wanted to get the fixtures the very best that there was to offer. And we started out by selecting the altar. This altar also has the Last Supper, of which we see that Jesus is having a supper with his friends, and it was at this Last Supper on the night before he died that he actually had the first Eucharist. After he had finished the supper, he took bread, he blessed it, he broke it, gave it to them, and said, "Take this and eat it, this is my body." Then he took the cup filled with wine and he blessed it, he said, take this and drink from it. This is a cup of my blood, the blood of the new and everlasting covenant. It will be shed for you and for all, so that sins may be forgiven. Do this in memory of me. And this altar, as did the elbow, the crucifix, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and St. Joseph, all came to us from Italy. So they're carvings, they're wood carvings, and were really quite expensive, but something that we really wanted to have, for the church. And what people did is they donated funds for these different items. The money that was donated for the altar was $25,000. For the two statues, people donated $5,000. And for the crucifix, it was also $25,000. And the ambo, I don't remember, but I think it was 10. That's not what they cost. They cost quite a bit less than that. But of course, you had to pay for the item, plus the rest of it went for the debt reduction of the church. So this candle that you see here is a candle that goes by several different names. This time of the year, we usually refer it to as the baptismal candle, because this candle is blessed at the Easter Vigil and also is used in the blessing of the water for the people who are received in the church, for them to be baptized. It also is known as the light of Christ, the paschal candle, and is a very, very important part of our faith. Also on the Blessed Mother with the child Jesus. This is a very, very famous painting, as it was originally, of a woman that was carrying a child. And it is used as the way in which we know that the Blessed Mother carried the child Jesus. So that painting was used in many, many statues that have been done. And in doing so, what you see is that you see Jesus resting on the breast of his mother. And if you get a real close look at it, you can see very much detail of the hands and the feet, and the toenails and the fingernails and the feet of Jesus. It's a very, very, very good representation. If there is a relic of the saint in which the church is named for, if there's one available, then that relic is supposed to be in the altar of the church on which it is named. When we actually dedicated the church, before we dedicated the church, we asked to have checked to see if there was a replica of the St. Mary Magdalene. And so what we did is we contacted Rome, the Vatican, and got this relic. If you look right in the center of this, you will see a bone chip, and that bone chip is a bone chip of St. Mary Magdalene. This is what we call a first-degree relic. And the corporal is used at every Mass, and the corporal is put on the altar. And on this corporal is where the bread and wine are placed. And during the celebration of the Mass becomes the body and blood of Christ. This is a disperser, and the container that holds the water, the baptismal water, is actually blessed by the priest. and is used in the sprinkling rite of the Mass, where the people are sprinkled with the baptismal water. This is called a sacramentary. The sacramentary is the book that is used during the celebration of the Mass and contains all of the prayers that pertain to the Mass itself. Prayers that you see here, this one with a higher back, is the presider's chair for the Mass, and next to him is where the deacon sits, or if there's not a deacon, an acolyte can sit there, or in some occasions, maybe an MC would sit there, depending on what is to be celebrated. This is St. Mary Magdalene, and St. Mary Magdalene is certainly the patroness of our parish and very, very important in the faith of our church. Many people think that this is a painting, but it's not. Actually came to us from the Vatican, and it is the Blessed Mother with the child Jesus. And what we do is that it was given to us by a member of our parish. She had asked not to be her name be revealed because this is just something that she wanted to do. The tiny little pieces of glass that you see that makes up the Blessed Mother and the child Jesus, if you look at it very, very closely, you can see how it's very, very, very detailed. So it's really beautiful. It's very expensive. We actually have the paperwork on it that came from the Vatican. It's a gold leaf enclosed. Very, very heavy. We had to have the especially place for it to be hung there on the wall. We were afraid to hang it ourselves, and so we hired someone actually that came in that was in that business to hang it for us, and they dropped it. And what it did is that inside the frame, it actually shifted in the frame, and they repositioned it in the frame. So we were trying to protect it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful mosaic, but people, if you get a chance, should come up and actually observe it very, very closely, because it's really beautiful. When we built the church, the first year, we did not have these stained glass windows that are the Stations of the Cross. And the first summer that we had here, you could not cool this place at all. I mean, the sun just beamed through these windows. So we knew we had to do something about it, and we realized that we had 7 windows on each side where we could put the 14 Stations of the Cross. And that's what we did. Now there's something in these stations that are kind of hidden in the station. Where you see on this first one here, where Jesus is condemned to death, the people that we have there actually represents all of us. But also, his mother is there. If you see here, where we see someone in blue in these stained glass windows, that depicts his mother. So she's in the crowd, and we know that she was in the crowd. Okay. You see, here's Mary in the crowd here. We don't usually talk about her as being there, except in the 4th station where it says that Jesus meets his Blessed Mother, but she is in some of these stations. She's down here. And this is where Simon comes out to help Jesus to carry the cross. And this is where Veronica actually wipes the face of Jesus. Now, if you get into a certain area, you'll see that the face of Jesus on this towel. Can you see that? You may have to move it around a little bit because only in certain areas that you can see it.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. And you see right above is the Blessed Mother in this station. Jesus falls the second time. Jesus speaks to the women of Jerusalem, and there you see his mother again. And this is where Jesus falls the third time. Stripped of his clothing, nailed to the cross, and there's the Blessed Mother with Jesus. And again, when he dies upon the cross, the Blessed Mother, they're up again. And Mary Magdalene and the other Mary. Again, we see the Blessed Mother, and then he's laid in the tomb. Mary Magdalene at the tomb, and in many cases this is called the 15th station. It is a Divine Mercy painting, and we had the same person who restored the Last Supper in the chapel painted this as a replica of what is called the penitent woman. And this is where Jesus is actually forgiving her sins. Now that was done by a nun, and I do not know her name.